Hi, everyone, and welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust, episode 34. My name is Joel Goldberg. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope that you have survived another week in some form of quarantine or whatever is going on. Most importantly, just hope that you are all out there healthy, staying safe, and trying to stay upbeat too. I know how tough it is, and I'm dealing with it. My family's dealing with it like so many others. But on a personal level, just real proud to have finished another week of Rounding the Bases Live, and can't thank Enterprise Bank and Trust, hashtag no stopping you, enough for their support and for everyone out there that has been watching on a regular basis. This has really been re-energizing for me to have some of this purpose while we're off from baseball. I know everybody keeps asking every day, when's baseball coming back? Still don't have a date. I just have this gut feeling that we're looking somewhere around July 1st. I might be wrong. I don't know exactly what it looks like. But if you are waiting for baseball to come back, I know so many others are. And I think NBA, NHL may be coming back at some point too. That's a whole nother discussion. I do want to thank Casey Cattle Company, and they deliver to all 50 states. They are local. They're in Weston, Missouri, so just outside of Kansas City. Veteran owned and operated, led by former Army Ranger Patrick Montgomery. It's Wagyu beef. It's amazing. I think that I saw downstairs that we have the bratwurst, I think it's bacon cheeseburger bratwursts that are ready to go tonight. It just fits in with my diet right now. Very healthy, but it's going to be good. So that'll be fired up on the grill later tonight on, I think, what should be a chilly evening in Kansas City. So check them out, CaseyCattleCompany.com. They also have a nice presence on social media. Good guys, good company, and all employees that have served this country of ours. Speaking of serving community and serving others, really excited right now to visit with my latest guest. His name is Rodney Whittington, and he is the CEO of Villa St. Francis. And we're talking right now about care for you can correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but care for the elderly population, and certainly a population that is vulnerable right now during COVID-19, but also having to do so in a way that keeps their employees safe. They're essential. I'm setting up a little bit of this, but first off, Rodney, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Joel. I got to get focused after you mentioned bacon cheeseburger brats. I got to get back on topic here, but we're doing good. We're happy that we're COVID free today, but we realize that this is an aggressive virus and contagious, and that could change any day. But at least up today, we're happy to report that our staff and residents are COVID free right now.
So there's a lot going on here, and I know that I was on and did a little presentation for some of your staff the other day, and a lot of them were in scrubs. They had masks on. You could tell that they were on their way to work or maybe at work. This is really serious stuff. I think we all know that, and everybody's processing differently, and some people view it a little bit differently. But your people already live in a world where safety in terms of health is of the utmost importance. How much has that been magnified now during this pandemic?
So, it's interesting. We do, you've heard the talk of this is just like the flu or those kind of things. And one of the things that, you can get on either side of that debate, but we have battled for forever in nursing homes the fact that our residents are frail, they're compromised, they have multiple disease processes going on. And so the flu is deadly to them more than it is me or you. Pneumonia is deadlier to them than it is you or I.
Mm-hmm.
And so while this is not brand new, we are on heightened attention because of the aggressiveness and the what seems to be the really high contagion level that it is. So we've just upped what we've always done practice-wise to not allow infections in our building.
Right. So that's a world that you were already living in. That maybe the stakes aren't higher. The stakes already were high. Maybe one of the differences, though, is that certainly in terms of guests, in terms of family, and the access that they have for a population in terms of your residents that I can only imagine um, live for those moments
Sure.
where they get to spend time with loved ones. By the way, this is happening not just in, nursing homes and facilities like that. It's happening everywhere. If there is a senior citizen or someone that's living in their house and they can't have their, grandkids or whoever is coming in, how much of a mental toll, and maybe that's not even the right expression, but what has that done emotionally, mentally for so many of your residents?
Yeah, I think it's a great expression, Joel. They all already when you enter a nursing facility, you're kind of cut off from your normal community that you've lived in. In some cases, your church, you get less visitors from your family, less visits from your family, et cetera. And so, one of the things we always are battling is their loneliness. And so, this has impacted that greatly because it's dangerous to allow visitors and we're doing our best to do things like this, Skype and FaceTime and those kind of things, but it's just not the same as touching your loved one and being in the same room with them and all that. So it is a large mental and emotional toll. We've got to be really guarded about depression and that kind of thing. So it's probably the biggest thing right now. They're used to dealing with health issues physically and the treatments for that and the medications for that, but this is something brand new, especially for those that are really used to their daily or weekly visits. We have sons and daughters that'll come eat dinner with their loved one every day, and that's been cut off.
Mm.
And it's a real struggle. We as best when we can predict, we try to let if somebody's in what we believe to be their final days of living, we try our very best to accommodate visits in person, of course, with really stringent, temperature taking,
Hmm.
questionnaires about where they've been and that kind of stuff. But it is our goal to keep this as normal as possible, but it is really tough right now.
So, is it purely for them, Skype and Zooms and FaceTimes and all of that? I mean, I imagine, and like anybody else, right? Something is better than nothing,
Mhm.
but they can't have those dinners. They can't have those visitors. I guess that's my first question, and the second question is, if this population of yours, your residents, if they've all been quarantined, are the only outside sources that could potentially bring it in be your employees? I mean, is it almost a safe, isolated area for everybody then?
Yeah, you're right. And one thing I will say is it's very safe at Villa St. Francis and most nursing homes right now. We're doing very intense procedures to keep people virus free. As the communities open up and the phases start phasing in, and our staff, like everybody, will loosen up a little bit, and so the chances of it getting into our building increase. But we've got to stay mindful of the procedures to keep clean, keep distance, wear masks. But we are mandated or directed right now by CMS to not allow visitors unless they're absolutely essential or in the end of life situation. So we are, like I said, being super aggressive about not letting the virus in our building. We have 250 employees though that go back out into the community, every day. We're trying to lessen their trips to the supermarket and stuff like that. In fact, later today we're passing out care packages of
Mm.
groceries to them, just to try to again decrease their trips out into the world right now.
That's got to be a challenge. Might not be the right word either. I know you have great people, and I know that you've done your homework when you bring those people in and did so before that. I mean, you know who your employees are. What are the challenges though in terms of leadership in getting that buy-in? Because you can control what happens at your place.
Mhm.
It's like with kids, right? I mean, you do your best with your own kids to make sure they're abiding by the rules, but once they get out of the house and you can look at the GPS and all that type of stuff, you're not doing that with your employees, but you can't control 100% of it.
Right.
So what is that communication like, and what are the leadership challenges there of knowing that you can't control every single moment.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted staff that serve in nursing homes are committed and dedicated to keeping the people they serve healthy and safe. And so, you know, that really isn't a challenge. They're very aware that if they bring in this virus to the folks that they've cared for months and years, that it could be deadly. And so that really isn't the challenge leadership wise right now. It's about keeping morale up. You help me participate in that by your encouraging words to our staff a couple weeks ago, and I thank you for that. But really, right now, my largest task as a leader is to keep the confidence up that we are doing the very best we can to keep this out of our building and to keep you safe and to provide small tokens like groceries to help you stay in the house more. But it's just keeping their morale up because it is scary times. We don't want to have the virus come in, and if it does come in, the other piece of leadership is to keep them confident that we will work to get it contained, get the patient healed, get the staff members healed if it comes, if it spreads to staff and residents. So those are the main things right now, because as you can imagine, nursing home staff all over the world are timid to come to work because they could bring the virus to somebody. And that's one of the differences of our caregivers, and that people may not account for, is that the relationships they have with their residents have been for years in many cases, and months and years. And so it's not like they just met them last week, and if something were to happen to them, then there's not really an attachment. This is serious for all of us that know these people, their families, their history. And so my staff is very diligent about procedures, but it's keeping their morale up and them encouraged to keep doing this, because there would be other easier jobs to go to in the world right now.
So they're clearly they have a passion and they love what they do. They're good at what they do, but they have an emotional investment, essentially. Sure. is what you're saying. And so
right.
That's a lot of motivation just from that standpoint, right? We would all, I believe, do whatever we could to protect our loved ones, and not that we wouldn't protect some stranger too, but when it becomes personal,
Sure.
It becomes emotional. Well, I think what you're saying is it is personal for them because they have those relationships with the residents. What are they hearing from the residents? You talked about the emotions, some of the depression from being isolated, perhaps from their family. And I would imagine that that's something that they we're already dealing with in certain cases anyway, leading up to this. But just in terms of a comfort level or a fear factor, what have you heard from those residents that I'm sure are scared right now?
They're discouraged that they're not having visitors. They're scared of what they hear on the news, as you can imagine. But again, they understand that they're at risk of flu, pneumonia, common cold is more treacherous for them, all those kind of things. So they take it pretty well in stride, to be honest with you. The lack of visitors and getting to come together in the dining room, because everybody's having to eat privately in their room now. And so they're used to the camaraderie. The room full of 80 people playing bingo has gone away. Going to mass, in our case, we have daily mass at Villa St. Francis. That's had to stop. It's all now on our circuit TV, whatever you call that stuff. And so, those are the biggest pieces right now. They can take the physical illness part in stride, but it's the interaction, the social stuff, lack of visitors that is probably our biggest thing right now, that we are just trying to be as creative as possible to meet those needs.
So let's talk. I want to talk a little bit more about your employees, because I have said that anyone working in your industry and the first responders and medical care, and it's a large group of people, not just in Kansas City in the United States, but around the world. And it's interesting to me because I had a guest on a couple days ago, Purple Heart recipient, and he's like so many members of the military that say, well, I don't view myself as a hero. I don't think I'm worthy of being a hero. And my comment to him was, would you call all those medical workers heroes right now? Of course you would. So yes, you are a hero. It's an uncomfortable label at times because you always feel like, well, wait a minute, there are others that are doing something else or whatever it is. But how how much are your people? I'm not just talking yours at Villa St. Francis, but again, nursing homes around the country. And look, I by the way, I see I see those that are giving care pulling up at homes in my neighborhood that are, walking in with masks to deliver services,
Right.
perhaps to the elderly that are living out of homes. I mean, this is far reaching, but how much um, of the hero label would you put on them, and how do they respond to that? I mean, they, in my mind, they are heroes.
Yeah, I've been in this business 21 years, I guess, and I've always labeled CNAs and nurses and the housekeepers, the dietary department, all those people are heroes. I mean, they are doing a job that a lot of people wouldn't choose, and they do it because they're passionate about it. They do it because they care about the elderly. Um, they do it because they do like those relationships they develop. And so, it's been real easy for me for 20 years to see the hero in each and every one of them. The work is physically demanding, as you can imagine. It's emotionally demanding, and for our nurses that are assessing and those kind of things, it's really tough sometimes because you're dealing with, in many cases, somebody that can't fully communicate, what's going on with them, whether it's due to dementia or something else, that they're just not able to tell you exactly what's wrong with them, like me or you could to our physician or nurse. And so they've got to be super smart. We do have some of the best nurses in this profession, and I think that goes overlooked for our staff a lot because of the headlines you see about things that happen that are unfortunate in nursing facilities. What you see on 60 Minutes about us usually isn't very flattering, and so it's also, in a lot of cases, a really thankless job for our staff because the prestige of working in the nursing home just doesn't really exist. And it's things like this, opportunities like this, and thank you for that, to tell our story that these are bright, committed, all in kind of people that do this work. And I'm super proud of them, and always have been. And to call them a colleague for 20 years is great for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and I think this is true certainly in a lot of professions, but definitely in your world, you get a few bad reports out there. And I've always said, by the way, this is true in any locker room for the most part. In any profession, you get all types, and every now and then you get a bad apple or a bad experience. And I'm
Sure.
not trying to minimize those experiences, by the way, either. But to label everyone that way. And so, this stuff goes viral, and then suddenly every nursing home is, and the reality of it is that the regulations that you deal with, you know better than me, they're pretty intense, right?
Yeah, we're one of the most regulated industries in the world, and it's kind of shocking. This kind of care is provided in homes, without quote unquote professionals, um, family members taking care of their loved ones that are sick or elderly. And and I understand the history of why we became so overly regulated, but the tough part for me right now is we're used to regulations and meeting those expectations and hopefully exceeding them. But right now, I think the tough part is that we see our hospital peers, really being heralded as heroes, and we agree with that. We totally respect the job they're doing. But then the backside for us is that you go on the news and people want more scrutiny on a nursing home, more accountability. Even one guy I was watching the news said we should be being surveyed every single day. And that's just an out of touch comment because so much of our day already goes to things that divert us from direct patient care, which is the most important thing we're here to do. And to add scrutiny and accountability and a survey to us every day is just an out of touch way of thinking. We need the same support of PPE resources and financial resources as hospitals and other industries do. And so that's the real thing for us is that we want to be viewed in that light versus, come beat us up a little bit while we're trying to do our best to serve the people that are at most risk for this. And I think I hope we learn from this first go around that nursing homes should have been given the most attention right out of the gate as soon as we knew this virus was most deadly to the elderly. FEMA, CDC, and others should have really jumped on our bandwagon and helped us quicker than has happened.
Got a comment here coming in from Ivy Hall Swift. Rodney is among the best long-term care experts in the country. We are blessed to have him and his team at Villa St. Francis as a board member. I can't tell you how fortunate our community is to have him at the helm. So we'll let Ivy brag on you a little bit.
Thank you, Ivy.
So yeah, it's nice to hear from some people. Also got this little shout out. So
hey Jennifer.
It's been fun to watch people jumping in and see this and hear their comments. But back to Ivy's, I wanted to just ask you on a professional level, I guess personal too, what this has done to you as a leader, or how in the last 7-8 weeks has this changed your perspective on the way you lead your people?
The perspective change has been a lot, that I can't be in the same room. I can't wander the halls and, say hi. I can't, do a lot of those things. And so as everybody knows, whether in your home or at work, communication is king for happiness. And when communication is altered or lessened, it's tough. And so you see, some more emotions come out because communication isn't as thorough or immediate or as clear as it once was. And so I think, my perspective right now is how to maintain good, clear, timely communication when we all can't do things the way we used to do. And so we're having to adapt to that change as much as anything. But I've just, back to earlier point, I've just gained an even deeper respect for the team that's willing to come do this. And it's a huge burden, Joel, for them to go out into the world and then, potentially be bringing a virus into a place of surrounded by people they care for and love. And, again, we have a lot of precautions and things we put each other through to make sure we don't do that. But we all know how contagious this is, and that can change any day. So leading through that kind of, emotional roller coaster or up and down is kind of the focus right now, and keeping everybody positive and confident in what they're doing and what we're doing as an organization to keep everybody safe.
It's interesting. It's an interesting mindset too, because so often you hear, well, I want to be careful, or I want to follow these practices because I don't want to get it. But then there's the other side that says, I want to follow these practices because I don't want to give it. And it sounds to me like that's really the focus of your employees right now, not just from a standpoint of their job, but from a standpoint of safety to the people that they love and that they're paid to take care of, that it's more about others than about them.
It really is. They know, and data shows that if I get it, or if they get it, they're probably gonna, be okay. But the data also shows us that if they get it and bring it in here and spread it to a resident, they probably won't be okay. And so it's a huge burden, and it's something that's top of mind for all of us every day.
Mm-hmm. In listening to you talk about how you can't be face to face, and so many of us are dealing with that right now, but your employees have to be face to face. And so,
mm-hmm.
You talk about some of the isolation and the depression for residents, mm-hmm. but how are you keeping your own employees upbeat? Because I know that there's an emotional toll on them too, and I'm sure you want to just put your arm around them and do everything that you can, and that's what you're trying to do virtually. But
sure.
But how are you keeping their emotions and their positivity up at times where I'm sure some of them are going home and it can't be easy?
Right. I've talked a lot with our leadership team about the fact that right now, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, almost every moment in between is stressful. It's not like it used to be. You can't do the things you used to do to um, relieve your stress or whatever your, going to a movie, if that was what, was your downtime, or going to a restaurant, or whatever, or just going to visit your family. You can't do those things that refill your tank right now. So a lot of emotional tanks, if you will, are half empty, or less, and that's tough. But what we're trying to do is have small, socially distanced gatherings where we do talk and encourage one another, and try to uplift, remind that we're doing a great job, congratulate that we're still COVID free up to this point, and how proud they can be about the diligence that's taken. And then, other small things like, like I said, we're passing out groceries today to all our
Mhm.
staff to, lessen their financial burden, keep them safe at home even more. We're next week is National Nursing Home Week, so we're going to do some, small celebratory stuff, wear wacky clothes and stuff like that to entertain one another and the residents. So it's just trying to be creative and still add some fun into the work, even though it's scarier right now.
All right, a few final things as we wrap up. First off, I don't, I have no knowledge of the medical world, and I'm the guy that's scared of needles and all that kind of stuff. So now suddenly, I know what PPE is. I didn't even know what that stood for
Sure.
before. I know what PPP stands for too. I mean, there's a lot of things that we're all learning. But how's the PPE situation in terms of equipment for your staff?
So it's been, to be honest, half of my day is spent. It's slowed down right now because we've been fortunate to finally start to get some stuff coming in and stockpile. But for the last month, the first few hours of my day was like hitting the internet, trying to find who has masks and gowns and gloves and hand sanitizer. And I'm really happy of the groups, the Riegers, the Charlie Hustles, these Kansas City groups that have stepped up and tried to ease that burden. But we are getting, we're supposed to be receiving a couple weeks supply of PPE from FEMA now. I wish that would have come earlier, but I don't want to complain about it. It's on its way. So what we feel like we have is about 60 to 80 days worth of PPE if we were to get a full blown outbreak here. And so we're just going to continue to collect that stuff right now, and then hope for the best that we don't burn through it like we could. But we're not in bad shape, but it took a daily battle to start to get stuff. And anyway, I feel fortunate, but it was a task, and I think it could have been easier if those things would have been focused on nursing homes out of the gate.
A few more comments that we should put up here, and it's nice to see just some of the positive feedback. I think that's really important right now too. We've got this one for you. I suspect that'll mean something.
Yeah,
and
Golden Tornadoes from Coffeyville, Kansas. I love it. Hi,
and then
Brian.
from Tiffany, great job,
Thank you,
Bill of St.
Tiffany.
Francis. And we get a little amen there from Callie
Thanks,
Malloy.
Callie.
I like to try to I can't get them all in there, but I like to try to get as many as I can in. I think that's important for
Thank you.
everybody to be able to see those. So as Rodney, as we wrap things up, and I'll tell you right now, I can't wait to see you and your staff at some point out at Kauffman Stadium, whether that's this year or next year, whenever it is. I'll look forward to hopefully in person, thanking the work that they all do, and they're making such a big impact. But uh, for the average person at home, well, they can be better than average or less than average. It doesn't make a difference. But for anyone at home, and we all have relatives, that might be older, maybe in a nursing home, maybe not, or whatever it is. What's some advice that you could give right now to anyone in terms of connecting with family, with friends, and with the population that may not be able to have that interaction right now?
Yeah, if you have somebody in an assisted living, independent living, nursing home, reach out, set up a phone call. If they have a phone in their room, give them a call. They need those phone calls now more than ever. If you're able to FaceTime or Skype or that, most nursing facilities have really tried to stock up on either iPhones or iPads to allow for that and accommodate that. So, reach out, encourage, if you know people that work in a nursing facility or in healthcare, give them a pat on the back. It's tough work, and those small words of encouragement, do help fill that emotional tank that I talked about that's running kind of low right now in this scenario. So, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. It's just letting us know you're there. Encouraging word is great. And so it's real simple, and everything's appreciated.
Well, I can't thank you enough for, first and foremost, being a great leader and taking care of your people in a way that matters. I know it resonates with them. I can only imagine that when you go to work every day with the emotions and potentially the danger, and know that you're being taken care of. And I've heard it in other professions too. When people could sit there and say, you know what, our employers are looking out for us and our safety, that does a lot in terms of feeling better about what you do and being able to pour everything into work. So to all of your employees and those not just at Villa St. Francis, but at nursing homes all over the place, thank you for all you do. And Rodney, I'm glad that you were able to come on and share some of the perspective from the world that you're living. And I think it's important. It's one that affects so many people. So thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And Joel, I'll close to echo your point is, our premise is there's a one-to-one correlation between the way we treat our employees and the way that they will care for the residents they serve. And so our goal every day is to let them know that we've got their back and we care about them, and they're our priority. And that translates into, the 5-star rating that we have. Our staff feel, respected, loved, and treated well, and they do the same for the residents they serve then. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share my opinions and thoughts on this, and hopefully give some people perspective of how much great work is happening in nursing homes all over the United States.
Yeah. Keep doing it. I know you will, as all those will around the country. A couple final, because I got to keep adding them in there. Kim says, great job, Rodney. And one more final, we'll leave it at this. Great finishing touch from Callie, who says, thanks for giving us the platform to show the good that we do. That's just one of the smallest things that I can do, and provide just a little bit of a voice to highlight those like Callie. And so it's certainly my honor to be able to do that. And I said it already, I'll say it again. I can't wait until whenever it is, till I see you out at Kauffman Stadium, because I know that you're out there a bunch.
Amen. Looking forward to it. Go Royals.
Yep, we'll be back. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know exactly when, but it's coming. I hope. So, Rodney, have a great weekend. Continue to stay safe. Keep your people safe. I know you'll do that. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much, Joel. Appreciate you.
All right, hang tight for 1 second. Great to visit with Rodney, and really fun to hear from so many of the people in the Villa St. Francis world. You could see the passion and how much it means to them, and really just my honor to be able to help share a small bit of their world. I couldn't do it without my friends at Enterprise Bank and Trust. #No stopping you. 34 episodes in the books. Many more to come. I think I'm booked through the end of May. I'll take Memorial Day off. There may be one other day in there. Start booking June soon. The interest has been through the roof, so I'm so grateful for that. Couldn't do it without Enterprise Bank and Trust and my friends at Casey Cattle Company. Check out their website if stuff is sold out. Take a look back early next week. They reload all the time. It's Wagyu beef, veteran-owned and operated up in Weston, Missouri. That is going to do it for another episode of Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. I'll see you back here on Monday, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, whatever you want to call that. Posted on LinkedIn later. My only ask, share with your network and your friends. Let's see how much of a difference we can make. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody, and I'll see you on Monday.